I am back. That was a quickie, I know. Yeah, so I love reading. Anyway, as you know, as usual, I'm going to share this over and to my page and the other group. So bear with me for just a second while I do that. Page. And group. Creations from the heart space. Okay. So here we go. All right. Cool. So now we can start. This is the third part tonight, and it's also the last part. We've had chapter 3 and 4 from Tang, the first book of the Seals in Spain Reverse Harem trilogy. Hi, Margarita. Then we had in part 2, Drew, which is book 1 of the Band of Brothers trilogy, romance novels. And now we're having a standalone romance novel, Opposites Attract, that I'm reading chapter 1 and 2 from. Okay, so, and of course, there was some poetry as well. And the poetry that you heard in part 2, which is in the book Drew, is also in my book Love Expressed, which is a poetry book for romantic and erotic poetry. And let me just put the hang on. Let me just put the link for that one in here as well. If you like love poetry, then feel free to get that as well. Love it. Of course, I had to misspell that somewhere, didn't I? Okay, there we go. Yeah. Anyway, so hello, Kate, Cindy, Jade. Good to see you. Happy Valentine to all of you. So there's the poetry book for adults. Some are very sweetly romantic, and then of course you've got very hot, steamy ones as well. So that's the whole range, Anyway, but now we're going to Opposites Attract, and that is actually the longest novel of all that I've written, which is, I think, around about 65k in words, if I remember correctly. Something like that, closely followed by Tank, which is 60k anyway. And then comes Born to be Wild. Anyway, so let me start on Opposites Attract, chapter 1, Teaching Philosophy. It had been a struggle to find a first job as a lecturer. Jada had done bartending and waitressing after college before finding a job as teaching assistant, and finally she had landed her first job as a lecturer at George Mason University in Fairfax, Virginia. She was good and the students liked her. So did her colleagues. Jada was happy and had great plans for the next year. Her teaching style was uncommon, and so were the topics she discussed with her students. However, she had had great results so far, and she was well liked and respected for it in the college community. Her happy, outgoing attitude and positive, caring demeanor had won her the hearts of many. Jada believed in hard work, playing with the team, supporting each other, and helping those in need. She had even let a student, a young woman, sleep on her couch for a couple of nights when the girl had broken up with her boyfriend and needed a place to sleep before finding a room of her own. Jada had helped with that too. The girl had turned out to be one of her best students, and she had high hopes that she'd get very far in her field. Then she had received a call from a friend she'd gone to school with. He had found his old high school yearbook and done some research to find Jada's new contact details. They'd been close friends at school, and as they'd gone to college in different parts of the country, they had lost contact. After talking on the phone a couple of times and catching up, he invited her to visit over the spring break for a week and meet his wife as well. Jada had spoken to Andy's wife, Kathy, on the phone as well and had been touched how friendly and open Kathy was. She had never had anything but a platonic relationship with Andy, but some women were jealous of female friends. However, Kathy wasn't one of them. She was warm, welcoming, and genuinely interested to get to know her. Andy had studied law at Georgia State University in Atlanta and had secured an internship at Atlanta's leading law firm, King and Spalding. When he had graduated, they had offered him a permanent position, and by now he had carved himself a good chunk of the firm's revenue. Kathy had told Jada that she loved Andy's intelligence and keen intellect. He had an IQ just under being a certified genius, and as good as he was at his job, he treated Kathy with the utmost of love, reverence, and consideration. Kathy herself had majored in arts, and Andy had made her dream come true. To have her own gallery in the heart of Marietta, on the square, it had been his wedding gift to his wife, and she had made a success of it so far. She had told Jada that there would be a vernissage at the gallery during her stay, the work of a new young artist Kathy had found. Jada had a few evening dresses for use for occasions at George Mason University, where she was employed at the Department of Philosophy. They weren't overly sexy or glamorous, but still flattering. Jada never overdressed. She was trying to fit in with the teaching crowd, and those mostly wore casual or formal clothes. She packed a formal dress for the opening night of the exhibition at the gallery, and otherwise jeans, skirts, and other casual clothes. Kathy picked her up from the airport as Andy was working, and the two women hit it off from the start. When they reached the Towner's house, Jada was duly impressed. Yeah, I know. I'm still trying to get my head around it myself. But Andy insisted we'd have a big house because he has to entertain wealthy lawyers and clients. So anything more humble wasn't an option. We met in college and he had a good salary considering it was a student job. I thought we could carve a life for ourselves in a few years and all that. But Andy moved so fast up the ladder, it still makes me dizzy to think about it. He is so intelligent, but of course you know that. Jada laughed. She knew exactly what Kathy meant. Andy had saved her skin more than once, helping her with studies, researching for papers, and even in their casual conversations, she had always learned something from him. The man was a walking dictionary on almost any subject you could care to address. When Kathy showed her the guest room she was going to inhabit during her stay, her eyes widened. It's the size of my entire upper floor. Kathy laughed and helped her unpack while chatting away happily. When they were done, Kathy gave her a tour of the house, and then they had brunch together as Jada had landed early, and afterwards the two women had a swim in the heated pool outside. Once they were dressed again, Kathy took Jada to her gallery and showed her the premises. At present, there were still other works on display than what would be shown at the exhibition, and Jada offered to help with the work prior to the grand opening. Kathy gave her a warm hug. Andy says he's happy to pay for an assistant, so I don't have to do it all on my own, but I don't feel comfortable with that. I want to stand in my own right and not have this as an expensive hobby of a bored lawyer's wife. Shine my own light, have my own achievements. He bought the shop for me and paid for the refurbishments, but the rest I want to do it all on my own. Jada smiled. She liked Kathy more and more. She didn't have a partner, so needed to make her own living, but she knew even if she had a wealthy husband, she'd never be happy merely being a trophy wife herself. She needed to work her brain too much, as that she could be happy having beauty treatments and coffee rounds with other bored wealthy housewives all day long. She had always wanted to be a teacher, and from a young age, linguistics and philosophy had interested her greatly. Now she was teaching with passion, and the response she received from her students was more than worth it. Often, one or two stayed behind after her lectures to ask more questions, and the interest this showed made Jada's heart warm every time. She loved to help form a young person's mind and help them to think independently and with differentiation, not to be a mindless sheep following the herd. Kathy allowed her to pop next door to get them coffees, and they talked about how they would change the layout of the gallery and where to put which artifacts for maximum effect. Jada was knowledgeable about art. She liked the classics where you could clearly see what the artist had meant to depict. Abstract art either looked nice to her or not, but she never tried to interpret it. She went by intuition whether looking at it made her feel good and happy or not. That was her only criteria. She couldn't care less how genial the technique had been. If something felt creepy or negative to her, she didn't like it. She told Kathy as much, and her new friend laughed. You know, I like the way you think. Of course, I look more at technique and other factors as well, but I don't feel comfortable with apocalypse scenarios either. Life is there to be lived and to have fun doing it, right? Jada grinned. She liked Kathy even better now, and she understood why Andy adored her the way he did. He tended to be more serious, sometimes being prone to worry himself, and Kathy was sure to keep him on the bright side of life. She was very happy that her old friend had found such a wonderful life partner and that she had the honor to be their guest and start a friendship with Kathy too. The two women sipped on their coffee, tried a few layouts, and changed a few minor details. Then the plan for the exhibition was set, and while they were working, they also spoke about Jada's love of philosophy and how she went about teaching it. That was a really nice overview of the subject you gave me there in less than 10 minutes. You must be a great teacher. I wouldn't know where to start if someone asked me to hold an introductory talk about art. Your students must love you, Catherine remarked with a beaming face. I love to teach. I love to see those light bulb moments in young people when they develop their own thinking and suddenly understand something at a deeper level. It's so rewarding. And I have to say, my students seem to like me too, Jada explained. Kathy hugged her quickly. I'm sure they adore you and worship the ground you walk on, she told Jada emphatically. Andy joined them at the gallery in the late afternoon and dragged them out, saying that he wanted to take them to dinner and afterwards for drinks at a jazz bar. They all drove home to change and then went out again to put Andy's plan into action. As the evening wore on, Jada became tired, as she had got up very early that morning to catch a flight, and her considerate hosts noticed, although she did her best not to show her exhaustion. They cut the evening short after only an hour at the bar and went home. After one last glass of wine, Jada went to bed and slept soundly until the next morning. That was chapter 1. Chapter 2 is following now. Let me just say hello to Shaw, Tommy, Rebecca, Zegler, Colin, and Paul. Hello, and thank you so much for joining. That is very sweet of you. So here we go, chapter 2, Pacifist on a Warpath. It was already 9 a.m. when she awoke, and Jada rushed to get ready to go downstairs. She had promised Kathy to help at the gallery again, and she didn't want to make Kathy wait for her. However, when she came to the kitchen, Kathy was still on her robe and making coffee. Her hair was disheveled, and she had this beautiful I got fucked really good look about her that made her glow as brightly as the sunshine outside, streaming into the window and casting a golden light over all it touched. Good morning, Jada said, and couldn't quite hide a smirk. Kathy laughed. Yeah, it was good. Good morning. Coffee? Yes, please. I'm happy to see you like this. You glow, Jada complimented. Thank you. I hope you slept well. I didn't think you'd wake up till later. I'm usually an early riser by nature, but I slept very well. The bed is so comfortable, I might take it home with me. Kathy gave her a hug and kissed her cheek. She was a very warm, affectionate person, and Jada loved her all the more for it. The two women got to chat about a variety of subjects before Kathy went upstairs to get dressed. Outside, Jada saw the gardener working. He was cutting back a bush, and so she went out to ask him something about plants she was growing in her own garden. The man was very knowledgeable and answered her questions in detail. By the time she knew everything she needed to know for her own little patch of garden at home, Kathy was ready to go. They were about to leave the house when the doorbell rang. Kathy opened. A man in uniform stood outside. He was dressed in camis and carried a duffel bag over his shoulder. His tall, muscular stature was intimidating. He carried himself with a presence that shouted self-confidence and focus. Kyle, what a lovely surprise. How are you? Have you just returned from deployment? Kathy beamed and gave the man a big hug. Come in, please. It's so good to see you. Are you well? You're not hurt? I'm fine, and it's good to see you too. Let me introduce you to my new friend, Jada. She's come for a break from Virginia. She's Andy's old friend from school. Jada, this is Kyle, my college friend's brother. Sally and I studied arts together, but she's a model and talk show host now. Didn't she tell you she's at a shoot in the Dominican Republic for a week? She turned again to Kyle. Nope, she didn't expect me back so soon. I wanted to surprise her and came straight here. Now I can't get in and thought you might have a spare key. I don't, I'm afraid. But why don't you stay here? You know we have plenty of room, and Andy will be so pleased to see you. You know he hero worships you. The two laughed as if there was an insider joke to it, and Jada felt awkward. She tried to keep her face friendly, but her inside screamed at Kathy not to let this man stay. He looked dangerous, and if he just returned from the field, where he had no doubt killed a lot of people, he might also be suffering from PTSD and could potentially be dangerous. What if he grabbed a kitchen knife and, in a fit of rage, wreaked total carnage, leaving Andy to find the mutilated bodies of his wife and friend when coming home from work? It just wasn't safe with a killer in the house, no matter whose brother he was. I'm not sure. You already have a guest. I don't want to intrude, Kyle objected. Obviously, he had some sense in him after all. Nonsense. There's plenty of room, and Jada doesn't mind. Do you, Jada? All eyes turned on her. She couldn't say she minded, let alone why, so she pulled a face she hoped looked happy and shook her head. See, it's settled then. You're staying with us. Come, I'll show you your room and get it ready for you quickly. I'll fix you some breakfast while you're settling in. We were about to leave for the gallery, but you can make yourself at home and just relax. I'm sure you are tired from your trip. Do you need any help at the gallery? No, we're fine. It's just business as usual for now. You relax and adjust back to normal life. I might just have a nap as well. Will you be out all day? Kyle asked. Hopefully, Jada thought. She still didn't feel comfortable in his presence. Then again, the man exuded an air of masculinity that added greatly to her discomfort. He was all raw man, and she didn't know how to handle all her warring emotions. Talk about war! He was obviously taking it wherever he went. She started preparing some breakfast for the man while Kathy was showing him to his room and getting it all set for him. Jada couldn't just sit around and not help her friend after all. She figured, judging from the bulk of the man and his height, she'd better be on the generous side of it and whisk up a few eggs and fried mushrooms, tomatoes, and onions. Then she added a few slices of toast with salad, cheese, and other fresh produce, added some quickly prepared salad dressing to the mix, and put everything on a table with a glass of freshly squeezed orange juice, a bowl of mixed fruit, and a cup of coffee. When she looked down at the result of her efforts, she realized she had taken way too much trouble in arranging it in a way that looked like it came from a high-end restaurant. Damn, he'd now think she had gone to such an effort for him. Would he think she found him attractive and was trying to impress him? Before she could mess up her artful arrangement on the plate, however, Kathy and her new house guest returned to the kitchen and her chance had passed. Wow, that looks great. Is that for me? Kyle asked with wide eyes. Jada only shrugged. I thought I might as well make myself useful while you two were upstairs. She waved it off. Hopefully it's to your liking. This looks fantastic. What a homecoming. Thank you. Just something quick. No big deal. Shall we go now, Kathy? Kathy shot her a curious glance and answered in the affirmative. They left the house and drove to the gallery. Jada didn't say a word. After a while, Kathy cleared her throat. It was very nice of you to make breakfast for Kyle, even though you feel intimidated by him, she remarked. Jada blushed. Was it this obvious? I'm a pacifist, so I guess I don't do too well around soldiers. However, he's a human being and probably a hungry one. And you were busy, so that left me to prepare something, right? Thank you. He's a Marine, Kathy corrected, and Jada wondered if it wasn't all the same in the end. I'm sorry you feel that way, but he really is a very nice person and my best friend's brother, so I couldn't possibly tell him to go to a hotel or something. I understand. Don't worry about me. I've survived worse. Jada tried a funny laugh, but it sounded more like a pressed cackle. She clammed up her mouth and decided to best keep quiet. She was definitely in trouble. Hopefully, the man would decide to go home the next day to his base or wherever he lived when he was on U.S. soil. She could get through a dinner and another breakfast with him, couldn't she? When they parked outside the gallery at Marietta Square, she excused herself to get them both some coffee while Kathy opened up the shop. When Jada returned, a younger woman walked towards the door, seemingly in a hurry. Jada held the door open for her. The woman, who was wearing far too much makeup for daytime hours, ignored her in breezing past and strode up to Kathy in her high-heeled stilettos. Jada was sure you needed a weapons permit for those. She took the coffees to the back into the little office and started to drink hers. When she heard the doorbell tingling again, she came out and handed Kathy her coffee. Luckily, it was still warm. What a great thing that this woman came in. She was very interested in one of the busts in the window and wanted to know how much it was. She gave me her number to ring her later. I have to call Clara, who did the piece. It is already sold, but I recall her saying she would make something similar, a few more pieces, like a series. If that is so, I'll arrange a viewing for Tiffany. Sounds awesome. I'm really happy people love your collection so much. My favorite is the painting over there in the corner, though. It feels warm and loving, and if you get the most affectionate hug when you look at it, don't you think? Jada mused with a smile. Kathy gave her a hug. Ah, I love you. I'm so glad you came to visit. Is that yours? You did it? Jada asked. Wow. Kathy nodded happily. I love the feeling you get from it, and it was my intention to make the observer feel exactly this way. Who said you didn't know anything about art? You have great intuition. I wouldn't. I was going to ask you how much it costs because I'd love to buy it. I wouldn't dream of you paying for it. This is my present to you. I can't accept that. This is your livelihood, Kathy. You can't give away all your merchandise for free. I'm not. I'm just giving this one to you, and I won't have a discussion about it. Jada looked into Kathy's determined eyes. As warm-hearted as she wasn't a walkover at all, so Jada relented. If it was important to Kathy to gift her the painting, she wouldn't insult a new friend by refusing it. Instead, she gave Kathy another hug and thanked her. Her gratitude was heartfelt, and Jada knew Kathy felt it. It won't fit into your suitcase, so I'll box it up and mail it to you when you leave, Kathy said. After they had had lunch together at one of the nearby restaurants, Jada excused herself and went exploring. She knew Kathy wouldn't mind, and there was nothing to be done at the moment. Therefore, it left her free to browse through the quaint little shops around the square and explore the surrounding streets. When she discovered a small bookshop that also held stationery, she bought a small friendship book for Kathy that she was sure the other woman would like, as it contained pictures of various paintings and statues in keeping with the book's theme. She sat down on a bench on the square and wrote a dedication in the front. The Oxford English Dictionary defines friendship as a relationship of affection between two or more people. The word friend stems from an Old English root, phreon, meaning to love, to favor. It is also related to freo, free. Thank you for being my friend. You are a wonderfully affectionate, loving, and free spirit, the best example to the definition of the word. Yours in friendship, Jada. She popped the book back into the paper bag which it had come in. It had colorful printing on it with the shop's logo. It wasn't exactly gift wrap, but it would have to do, she decided. After basking in the sun for a while, she checked the time and decided to return to the gallery. Kathy would want to leave on time, with Kyle staying at the house, and Andy had promised to return home early from work as well. Kathy looked up from a binder when Jada walked in and smiled. "Ah, there you are. I was going to call you soon and tell you I wanted to leave in about 20 minutes. Did you have a good time exploring?" "Yes, it was absolutely lovely. Marietta is such a beautiful place. I'm in love. And the people are so friendly and charming. Oh, I found this." She handed Kathy the bag. "I'm sorry it's not gift wrapped." "Is it for me?" Kathy beamed at her, and like a child at Christmas, her eyes lit up and she opened the bag to look inside. When she held the book in her hands, she was touched. Her features softened and she pressed it to her heart for a moment. Then she opened it and saw the handwritten dedication. When she had read it, she looked up at Jada, her gaze conveying her feelings clearly. "Thank you so much," she whispered. "I'm really touched." Of course, they had to hug again, and then Jada showed her the prints of the paintings and other artwork inside the book. They were interrupted by a late customer, and when Kathy had dealt with the man, it was time to close up and leave. Right. That was it, the very last one. Let me say hello to everyone who's joined. Colin, Paul, Jill, Apeksha. Hi, Apeksha, darling. Thank you so much. Looking gorgeous. Thank you. Laura, Libby, John. Thank you so much for watching. And yeah, over now. It'll all be on my, the recordings will all be over on my YouTube channel as well. So you can always, look it up there also. The other two, I think, are already up, or at least the second one will be very shortly. And then I'll just add number 3 here. And I wish you a really very happy Valentine's Day. Lots of love for you from everybody who's in your life, and lots of love from me as well to you. Take care.